Why are we locked indoors? Why? Why? What gave the government this authority? Yes, I know, a democratically elected government, but that doesn't give them the power to control every aspect of our lives. When a government is elected, there is a little bit of a bargain, a little bit of consent between both the electorate and the elected that they will not become totalitarian dictators, right? You know, if we elected the Tory government in with an overmajority, and the very next day they said, right, we are going to be Nazis now, right? We're gonna restrict all your freedoms. We're gonna do ethnic cleansing, right? You wouldn't say, oh, well, it's okay because we voted for them and that was democratic, you know. And that is similar to what's going on. What's happened is we've elected a government largely for the purpose of getting Brexit done, I feel, and then an unforeseen circumstance has emerged. So they couldn't, you know, this was nothing to do with their policies, nothing to do with their election promises, nothing to do with any of that. It was an unforeseen circumstance, and they have not acted in the way that people would expect them to. They have become totalitarian. They have become dictatorial. I mean, what's going on right now? Like Boris just turns around and says, "From Thursday, you're all locked in your homes for 4 weeks." Is that something a democratic government does? I mean, are you crazy? Oh, but it's to fight a virus. It's a oh, it's an unforeseen circumstance. It's a deadly bees, killer bees everywhere. Well, that doesn't matter though. You know, if there were lions and tigers roaming the street, you still would not be morally justified or even legally justified to imprison people in their homes. You can recommend that they do. You can say, please stay in your homes because there's lions and tigers out on the street. But if somebody wants to go out into the street with the lions and tigers, well, that's their choice, isn't it? That is their choice. Oh, so they say, well, you overwhelm the NHS. Your selfishness in the face of this virus will overwhelm the NHS. Will it though? I mean, the answer is no, obviously. The answer is a resounding no. The NHS has not been overwhelmed. It's not been anywhere close to being overwhelmed. And even in the situations where they've reported, oh, hospitals at 90% capacities, hospitals at 100% capacity, it's perfectly normal for this time of year. It's perfectly normal. And NHS professionals and trust leaders have come out and said, this is normal. If a hospital gets to 100% capacity, we just move people to another hospital. It's normal. But even so, even if it was not, even if hospitals were truly at capacity, this argument is absolute bunk. Because the people who are spewing this, and gosh, I've seen a lot of them on the Twitter, on the Facebook, everywhere, these people who are spewing this, oh, you're so selfish, going out there without your mask, think of the NHS, think of the people who will die. Oh yeah? Do you go around saying that to fat people, to smokers, to old people? Oh, you old person who has stairs in their house, you're so selfish. Because one day you might fall down those stairs and then the NHS will be forced to treat you. And all the people who needed frigging transgender reassignment surgery or whatever will have to wait because the NHS are busy treating this selfish old person who fell down their stairs. See what I'm saying? They are claiming that by taking a risk in order to continue your life, you are being selfish. You know, you may as well say people who drive cars are selfish. Well, and they do, don't they? They do say that. People who drive cars are selfish because they're polluting the environment, or they're putting people at risk, or whatever it is. There's always something to be selfish, to be called selfish about. But these very same people who call us selfish, want to lock the entire country in their houses because what? Because they're afraid, because they're worried, because of a pandemic in inverted commas, which is less deadly than a seasonal flu, literally, provably. But no, they lock us in their homes and they'll let the cancer patients go untested. They'll let the elderly die of loneliness and dementia. They'll let people fail to get the surgery they need. Our friend, he was unfortunately had a bit of intestinal trouble before the pandemic, and he had a colostomy bag as they did some surgery on his intestine, and he was due to have that bag removed. And then along comes COVID, and as a result, my very good friend had to live an additional year, almost 6-8 months, with a colostomy bag, and that was not very pleasant for him. When the NHS opened, thankfully, he had the 3-week window when the NHS were open. He actually managed to get that bag removed and is now back to full health, I'm glad to say. But he's not the only one, not by a long shot. How many people are awaiting surgeries? How many people are awaiting things like that, the post-surgery operations? How many old people are awaiting hip replacements, or, you know, how many people are waiting dentist appointments, or friggin' haircuts, you know? But no, selfish, those people, you know. Absolute craziness. And dictatorial too, as I say. Matt Hancock says, coronavirus bill. The MPs they vote to not be able to scrutinise further coronavirus legislation. When the Coronavirus Act is up for renewal, a ridiculously draconian act that gives the government essentially limitless powers to do whatever they want. When it's up for renewal, and I wrote to my MP and I explained this to him, and he wrote back and he said, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. We have to protect the old people. So as a result of that, he and many others, the majority of others, voted to not have a vote. They voted to abscond from their democratic powers, and essentially, I mean, the same thing happened with Adolf Hitler. They voted him in emergency powers. And that's exactly what's happened here. The government has granted themselves, the MPs have voted in emergency powers, and what's going to happen? You think they're going to give up those powers? Did they give up the anti-terrorist powers that they got in 2001? Have they ever given up any powers? You know, with regards to the lockdown, people talk about Australia or South Korea or New Zealand, these countries that had these very harsh lockdowns, very stringent mask policies, people being arrested for not wearing masks, all that sort of stuff. And they say to me, oh, but, you know, Victoria in Australia, one of the most disgustingly oppressive regimes that's come out of this. So Victoria, Australia, they now have 0 cases. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. Are they allowed to put the masks off yet? No. South Korea, are they allowed to take the masks off yet? No. You know, Victoria, are they allowed to travel out of the state yet? No. despite coronavirus being eliminated, they are still locked down. They are still prisoners. They are still slaves, serfs, whatever you want to call it. And it won't end. It won't. And it's becoming clear, I think, to a lot of people now. Still I go on Twitter and Facebook and there's these, I don't know, zombies, frankly, just repeating the same rhetoric. Oh, masks save lives, selfish. And I understand. Because if you had been watching the BBC, if you had been watching Channel 4, if you'd been watching the state news and the broadcasters and reading the newspaper, then that's all you get. All you get is fear, all you get is deaths, cases, rises, lockdowns. All day, every day. You turn on the radio, click, and coronavirus, click. Turn it right back off. Because all you hear is the same thing. Coronavirus is here. It will never be the same again. We will never learn to live with it. We will never let it pass. We will never let it integrate into our society. We'll always live in fear. We will always wear masks. You know, we will redesign workspaces, workplaces, offices. We will redesign cars and houses and society. We will redesign restaurants and pubs, if there's any left. You know, we'll redesign sporting venues. Really? Is that the way it's going to be? We're going to completely reorder our entire society. Everything from handshakes to families to, you know, giving birth, christenings, religious ceremonies, jobs, driving, transport, sports, entertainment. Are we going to do that? Are we going to reorder our entire way of life for the sake of a virus that is not very dangerous? It's a 1 in 2,000 fatality rate, which is low. There was a poll on Twitter yesterday from Lawrence Fox, I think, which asked, no, it wasn't Lawrence Fox, but he retweeted it. It asked, do you know anyone directly who has been critically hurt by this virus? Like, I know 2 or 3 people who've had it, and they're fine. They lived, they had a nasty couple of weeks, but they're fine now. And the response from this poll was 81% or 89%, an 80s% of people come back say they are not aware of anyone who has had a critical condition as a result of this virus. That's a lot. That's a high percentage of people. You know, the sample size was about 1,500 people, so, you know, take that with whatever you want, but it's true all over, you know? No politicians have died, no celebrities have died. No, nobody. No, I don't know anyone who's died. I have a 101-year-old granny. She's fine. Like, I don't know anyone who's died. I don't know anybody who knows anybody who's died. I have a friend who has a friend whose ancient grandmother of 87 years old died with COVID. That's it. That's all I know. I don't know. Is it different in Leicester where they're locked down? Is it different in Manchester where they're locked down? Are there bodies piling up on the street? Well, no, there aren't, because we don't see any. And given the desperation of the media to fearmonger about this, you can bet your bottom dollar that if there was a single person who died in the street of COVID, it would be all over the news. But we haven't seen one. Not a single one.